Hey y'all, welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank and I'm joined by Jonathan.
Hey, y'all.
Today we're going to be talking Zack Snyder's sneaky announcements. We've got US is poised to ban TikTok, Star Trek's future, and The Last of Us Season 1 in review. We're going to start off with our question though, Jonathan. This is kind of a broad one. We threw it out there for the Twitter first. What is your favorite superhero?
Yeah, that is a complicated question too.
Right?
As kids, we didn't have nearly as much superhero content as the modern generation with, the MCU and even the DCEU, how it's been building on. And I don't know, as a geek fan or superhero fan, we can continue to love new characters and whatnot. But I think what you like the most as a kid is what really kind of solidifies in your character. So
Yeah.
that being said, as a kid, Superman was my favorite hero
Hmm.
because he can do everything. And personally, I've always wanted to be able to just fly
Yeah.
like Superman. That was like my biggest dream. But analyzing it now as an adult, I got to go with Batman.
Yeah.
Uh, and I know these are both DC and Marvel's what's really hot these days and stuff. And kids these days are like, why do you care about DC heroes? But those were the ones that we had really good animated series of when we were kids. And Superman, though he has so much power and he does have kryptonite, which is a weakness, but sometimes those aren't proportional, and he seems like he's just all powerful, and he has a little bit too much influence. But
Hmm.
I love to see how Batman is always struggling between the light and the dark inside him,
Yeah.
and what this balance of being a hero is, and he's so down to earth. He's a tortured soul, and he's just struggling day by day and trying to kind of correct the corruption that his family in one way or another was involved in and helped build within the city. So he's a really cool character, really deep character, and a lot more relatable than somebody like Superman.
I mean, you nailed it right there. I liked how you called out the animated series as well. Lucas Egan, who responded to our tweet about this, he says, "Growing up, Spider-Man was always my favorite. I loved the '90s cartoon, and always liked how a lot of the storylines made him relatable. I connected with seeing a superhero struggle with some of the same things I found myself navigating. The '90s cartoons." People underestimate, though, especially the newer generations, how impactful those were on the comic books of today because yeah, Batman as well. I mean, the Batman animated series, fantastic. The Spider-Man, X-Men comics, so classic. And so my two favorites, definitely Batman's one of them. And
Mm-hmm.
for everything you just said, right? He's complex, he's so neat, and he's just badass to watch. I'm gonna go with Wolverine as well.
Mm,
And I
that's a
really
good one.
liked Wolverine for a lot of reasons I can't really pin down, except for he's just cool.
Mm-hmm.
And even amongst the X Men, he's a bit of an outsider. He's super short. I'm short as well. And Bub, I mean, he's just cool. The way he does that whole like, "I got you, Bub." I just
Yeah.
he's just fun in every way. And so I think he's. It's funny that like the two got combined in the amalgam universe to make Dark Claw, because I don't know how Batman. I don't know how Batman and Wolverine compare. Why they decided to match those two together, but for
Mm-hmm.
some reason I like both of them. There's something there. I'm not sure what it is about those two characters that make them so fun to like
I,
together.
I think it's that shared personality, that kind of tortured soul trying to do good, but they're inside there is a darkness that they're trying to suppress or control.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, because of the X Men, he's probably the most dark and brooding one of the
Yeah.
X Men for sure. Especially when you got like Cyclops over there. That's like the jock, the Boy Scout. Is
Yeah.
such a nerd. But yeah, I think that's actually Thomas's favorite was Cyclops, and I was like, really, Cyclops of all characters? Like, why did you
We
pick that
I
one?
did, I think he was talking about this in your guys' last recording too, but I think Cyclops has just not been represented well in a movie yet. But
That's fair.
in time, like what was his pick for Cyclops was to act him. Oh, Henry Cavill, right? Isn't that
Yeah,
what he was
I
saying?
think that's right.
I was
Yeah.
like, that'd be really good. Especially if they really wanted to do it right. If Marvel wanted to build the X-Men kind of wing of the MCU,
Hmm.
I would do standalone movies for some of your key characters and then build
Yeah.
them in together and start, you don't have to, I mean, pretty much building like the Avengers, but they kind of grouped the Avengers together pretty fast. But I really want to get to know each character from a separate movie. Would be really cool.
And in a way, I miss that. Like with Iron Man, I miss the fact that we had
Mm,
these standalone movies and stuff. So hopefully, we do get back to that. This like even
yeah,
this Ant Man didn't feel standalone at all because you were just setting up Kang was the whole job.
yeah.
That recording, by the way, Jonathan, good shout out. This episode is brought to you by our Patreon. I believe that recording was our Q&A a first of many that we will be doing, where you guys who join our Patreon will get to know who we are. Generally, we'll try to make those free. So all you guys got to do, you don't even have to subscribe to Patreon where you pay any money. Although our lowest is $1, and we do appreciate the support. You could follow us, and then you get access to all the free content we put over on Patreon as well. So including that, a lot of the network updates, the behind-the-scenes stuff. But the Q&A, I thought turned out pretty good, and I think we'll be doing a lot more of those in the future.
It's a fun, really relaxed format where you just pull questions from the Geek Box and sit there and talk about it. But especially, like, you guys are just hilarious together because you elaborate off into these stories so well. So it was a good listen for sure.
Well, for Thomas, he and his friends grew up in Hawaii, and that's like, you know, for me, like I was telling my 51st dates is how I know Hawaii, and parts of that are accurate, parts aren't, and that was really interesting to hear. So I'm learning more and more about Hawaii. It's pretty neat. Last announcement before we get into the news, we are announcing, guys, the Sacramento Mario Kart Grand Prix, brought to you by Geek Freaks. This is going to be April 15th. It is at the CCS. We've been talking about that. We'll be at that convention, of course, interviewing devs, hanging out with anybody who wants to come and hang out with us. But we're also hosting our very first personal esports event. We haven't done this before. We've had contests, but this is actually an esports event brought by us. There's going to be a trial round in the beginning where you guys have to meet a certain time. We're working on all the fine details of that, but there will be a trophy at the end, and you will be the first ever winner of the Sacramento Mario Kart Grand Prix. And so we're very proud to represent that and bring that together. I'm ordering the trophy now. So check that out, guys. Come and join us. That's at the CCS in West Sacramento. That's going to be a blast, man. We got Kyle coming in from Idaho to hang out. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be good. All right, let's dig into the news. Here's some quickies real quick. Willow got canceled. John, I know you're a fan of Willow.
Yeah, that's disappointing. And I understand because the first season, it wasn't super exciting. It wasn't jaw-dropping, but it was fun enough, and it kept my attention enough to expect this show's going to grow. It's going to build. It might be like a lot of our favorite shows that took a first couple seasons to really get their feet, wet and figure out what they're doing, and then once they get going, then it really, the story gets a lot better. It was just okay. The writing, I think, was what was struggling in the most, but. It's disappointing to see that they're just going to cancel it and not try for that anymore because I had a lot of hope for it.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to watch yet. I know the creator says like, oh, it's not canceled yet. We're just not ordered yet. And it's like, yeah, but they released everybody. So you currently have no actors attached to your show. So we'll see if they can save it at some point. But right now they're not making it anymore. The new Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering cards. Sean, do you have a chance to check these out yet?
I have not. I just actually only heard about it from these notes.
Yeah, it is insane. At first, I was like, you know what, Magic the Gathering, they're just trying to make money. They've been doing a lot of these where they'll bring in like Doctor Who or whatever. Yeah. I see these cards, dude, and they are insanely dope. You guys got to check out the art on these things. The art alone is where it's at. But I got to give them props. There is literally one ring card. There's like, you could get a ring card that's not holographic, but there's only one in all of existence that will be holographic, and it's in a random booster somewhere. Feels like Willy Wonka,
Right? One ring to rule them all. That's crazy. Imagine how much that'll be worth once, if this takes I don't know, gets attention.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. So these are Lord of the Rings themed cards within Magic the Gathering that you can play against any other Magic deck with, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And some of the cards are actually written in Elvish, including that one ring one. The one ring card is written in Black Speak, I think it's called, which is Mordor's language. And so some of the cards you'll have to know Elvish to play them, but for the most part, most of the cards are in English.
That is dope. I need to update my Google Translate app on my phone. See if it has Elvish in it.
Oh, I hope that works. Oh my God, if that works, that's so freaking cool. We'll do
if
our
you haven't
banners
used that, guys, the Google Translate app on your phone, you can hold your camera up to a menu or any text, and it can translate it between most languages. So you'll actually see the print of the language you're trying to read. It is so handy, and that'd be pretty cool. Maybe it'd be a separate app or attachment, but that'd be pretty cool to have like these fictional languages on there.
I would Dothraki and everything like that. It's very handy in restaurants when you're like, I don't want any octopus. Let's see what's on this menu. Like, oh, okay, let's avoid these three.
Right. Let's avoid this whole page. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
IO Interactive is basically done making Hitman games for a while because they're going to start making 007 games. I'm so glad 007 games are back, man, because Nightfire, we played the hell out of that game.
But I'm wondering, have the Hitman games tapered off? I never really played them much. I played, I think, one of them. but I wasn't huge into it. But I knew they had a pretty big following for a long time.
In my opinion, it's not that they tapered off. It's maybe they got a little stale. They've been
Okay.
kind of just making the same game over or
Mhm.
adding to the same game for a while now. They are fun. The only time I really played it is when Brody needed help and I'd help him through a level. That's the only time I'd actually play the game. And at this
Nice.
point, he's probably better than me. Um,
Mhm.
I just know that 007 games, of course, we have GoldenEye, right? It's video game royalty, but I think Nightfire was so good.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be loved there, where you're this one character against an entire army half the time, and you have to be quiet. That's good because I like when it's not just like here's a big gun. You know, for
Mhm.
007 games, the idea is to not get shot back at, so it worked out really well.
And I haven't seen the newer 007 movies. Have you?
Oh yeah,
So is there any like interesting elements or key factors you would like to see in a new 007 game coming from those newer movies?
yes, the fact that they're recasting 007 right now. So I'm
Oh,
hoping that the new game uses whoever the new 007 will be. The big question
uh,
is who's the new 007. So
yeah,
Jonathan, it could be you if you could
could
pull
be
off that
me.
British accent.
Oh, I
I'm just
got it.
saying.
You know who I think I've heard this tossed around actually, maybe from you, is Idris Elba as 007.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Unfortunately, Twitter has turned him sour on that. He's so cool with it as well, but Twitter can be everybody's jerks over there. And so, yeah, he's probably not going to be 007. But there is some really good options. Henry Cavill is also one of the options out there that people are wanting to be 007.
Wasn't
Reggae John, I
he?
think is his name is the guy from Bridgerton. He's up
Hmm.
for it. If you
Wasn't Henry Cavill in one of the recent 007 movies
he's in
as a
Mission
bad guy?
Impossible as the bad guy.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where he like cocked his arms like "Cuckoo," and he's just like
Yeah.
not gonna do that. That's a really good
Yeah.
one, by the way. Check out that Mission Impossible.
Nice.
Diablo 4 beta is live and it is a mess because Blizzard apparently can't launch a damn game anymore. Queue
Mhm.
times to get into the game are 4 hours long,
Jesus.
so you just have to wait around for 4 hours. I know the last World of Warcraft patch was the same way. And there is chaos because they put free codes in KFC. So now people are like scrambling for buckets of KFC. They're mad that they have to do this because the keys are for the beta, not necessarily the game. So the game you win might not be around any longer after a few months. It is everything about this launch is terrible already. It's
That's great.
so
So does
bad.
KFC have free Wi-Fi? Because I'm thinking people could be sitting on the laptop just eating bucket after bucket trying to get a code while they're waiting for that 4-hour queue.
Yeah,
I
it
don't know.
just die over after the second bucket of KFC. That stuff's so oily. Oh man,
Right.
I couldn't do it.
So I don't necessarily condone this, but I imagine these two scenarios will probably happen. Is people digging through the KFC dumpster trying to find empty buckets to use the codes from, which in some states is not illegal, but I don't know,
Hmm.
just dangerous. So be careful. And you just pay the employee at the register, like, hey, let me just slip you $20, and you give me a stack of buckets that got codes on them, and I'll sit there and try them. Why not?
When
But
I
yeah,
worked at
probably not great.
McDonald's, me and my friend Ken, this was God probably 20 years ago. Oh, I'm so freaking old. About 17 years ago. Um,
Yeah.
they had this thing where on the outside, that they have the Monopoly pieces.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
it was the Monopoly thing, but they had like you would get like one, two, $3 or $5 to like Best Buy or something like that. And
Mhm.
so we were throwing things away, but me and him would like make sure to take off every one of those and grab that and score on that Best Buy money. And we ended up getting hundreds of dollars in Best Buy gift cards doing that. And it
Man,
was like,
that's awesome.
hell yeah. And we took that. It is so funny. I have literally just been emailed beta access to Diablo as we're talking.
Oh wow.
Swear to God, that just
That's
happened.
crazy.
Blizzard Entertainment just
Live.
emailed me, giving me beta access to Diablo. Y'all, I don't have to
Nice.
have no KFC, but I might get some Popeyes. That is so funny. But
That's
yeah, I
good.
ended up raking it in at Best Buy. That was good old days, man. Back when you were so desperate for Best Buy cash. Best Buy was the coolest place back before Amazon existed. you know.
Seriously, God, there's a lot of different businesses that were thriving before Amazon came around.
Yeah, yeah. They're all in the museums now. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
Circuit City, I miss you.
God, that was chaos. All right, Zack Snyder, he released some weird announcement. Basically, it's a little teaser saying that there's going to be this 3-day something at the end of April. He uses Darkseid, of course, from the Justice League, the bad guy from Justice League, saying that that'll be involved. I don't know, man. I personally don't want anything more Zack Snyder. I want James Gunn rebooting the DC to be it. We don't have to deal with the Zack Snyderverse anymore. What do you want any more Zack Snyder to like maybe wrap up what has already been made?
No, honestly, I think almost all of what DC has made recently has just been unsuccessful.
Yeah.
They're not succeeding in what their goal is which is competing with the MCU. So I think they just need to stop competing with the MCU.
Yeah.
You guys have tried it. You put all your eggs in that basket, and it didn't work out. So shift your focus. Figure out what your fans are interested in. Don't try to fight for the same market because Marvel has it captured, and I don't see you tried, and I don't see you pulling the rug out from underneath them anytime soon. So yeah, they need to. Like we've said it before, that Joker movie was so great.
Yeah.
Make other movies like that for each of your villains.
Well, they're keeping those around, which is nice. James Gunn said that those are going to be Elseworld movies, so we're going to keep with the Batman and Joker. Did you watch the Batman, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
That was good too.
Yeah, it was. We're going to keep those. It's just that they're not going to be touching this. So this might be that. Maybe he's making Zack Snyder's versus an Elseworld story. That's a really good point there. Mm-hmm. That maybe it'll have a place. I don't know. To me, I don't hate Zack Snyder. I hate Zack Snyder bros that right away take to Twitter and say like, oh, get rid of James Gunn. Zack Snyder needs to be the only one. I hate that.
I got a mind explosion just now.
Okay.
What they could do to reclaim past mistakes, or it might even reframe these past mistakes to become a planned project or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
These heroes that we aren't in love with because Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, they were just kind of disappointing, and the rest of the Justice League. Mm-hmm. But you make another movie with them where it shows them developing greed or being overly controlling and whatnot. And then we turn our villain movies like the Joker and maybe a Darkseid focused movie to be sympathetic to the villain, where all of a sudden we really want to see our villains succeed and free this world from these super powerful beings that are trying to keep us, under control. That'd be pretty awesome.
Is expensive idea, but I like it. I like the idea. So maybe I mentioned this on the podcast. My favorite of the old Superman cartoon that you were talking about before was that one where he takes out Darkseid on his planet. And do you remember that, where his people then pick up Darkseid and say like, he's our master. This is all we know is his sympathy. He's such an asshole villain, but it's like, but to his people, he's all they know. So
yeah,
that's a good idea, John.
That'd be cool.
I hope this is a comic book myself. I think that's our best option out of all this, is a comic book series that wraps up all the stories, because we know that Flash, the new Flash movie, is going to kind of be the reboot for the DCU, as in, because Flashpoint, like, he resets the timeline, so it's a good time to like, hey, scrap all that. Yeah. But we still have Wonder Woman out there. We still have Aquaman and all these other characters, Cyborg's even out there. And I think the best way to do anything is launch a comic book series. I don't know how that would take 3 days. That's the only problem. But maybe they release on that day. I think that's our best option. I don't know. Thomas had the idea of maybe it's a video game. That could be the case,
I don't know. So the DC is owned by Warner Brothers, right?
Right.
Is Warner Brothers owned by anybody? Are they affiliated with HBO?
They're Discovery right now. They own HBO.
Okay.
Warner Brothers owns HBO.
So I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they don't have the same money to throw around that Disney has.
No.
But it just seems like they're just way under investing if that's the case. If they're just going to be making comic books and video games, they're no longer trying to be in the movie industry.
Well, it's hard because they are in the movie industry. It's just that James Gunn's rebooting it all. So the fact that Zack Snyder's coming out saying, "Hey, we got an announcement with Darkseid," is stuff is gone already. It's going to be gone after the Flash movie. Yeah. So that's why, or even the Shazam movie that just came out, which we'll have a review for next week, by the way. The Shazam movie just came out, is all moot now because all that shit's gone. Like, it's all rebooted. So even Shazam doesn't matter anymore. And it just came out.
So are they gonna play it like that's just another realm that is like a multiverse kind of thing, that those guys do exist somewhere, but now we're focusing on this realm where things are a little bit different?
Generally, no. So the idea is James Gunn wants to do a timeline like Star Wars, so he doesn't want to do multiverses, but he will allow Elseworld stories, which the idea is kind of like What If for Marvel, where the idea is just like, hey, what if Batman existed in the Victorian time, which is a very famous Elseworld story. Yeah. That's it. So it's not going to be connected in any way, and that's the point. The point is it's just a one-off, and you're happy with them. Same thing with Joker.
Okay, I like that, and I do like the timeline thing that Star Wars is doing. That's seems to be very effective, and it's cool when you see those little strings that connect, something you saw in the past to something that's going on in the future between movies that don't really have a shared storyline or something. That's pretty cool.
I just started watching Bad Batch because I just finished Star Wars Rebels, which Jonathan, as a Darth Maul fan, my God.
Yeah, I gotta. But do I need to watch Clone Wars before I see that?
You really probably should.
Okay.
Rebels, you don't need to. They're not connected really. But
Yeah.
Darth Maul's story in Clone Wars is so amazing because he ends up taking over Mandalore. So it's so freaking cool. He wins the Darksaber, which you're seeing all that in Mandalorian right now. So he's the rightful owner of the Darksaber. In my opinion, he still is. Whatever. We don't need to go into that. But in Rebels, they continue that story and finish it off. And you actually see the final conclusion to Darth Maul, and his conversation with whoever kills him is so good that I'm just like, yes, this is what I wanted. This is the only way you can kill off Darth Maul. Yeah, it really is. And so anyways, I'm watching Bad Batch now, which takes place immediately after Clone Wars. And there's Rex in there, which is a character from Clone Wars, who now I'm like, can Rex be alive still by the Mandalorian? He can be. He's an old man, but he's there. So it's like, oh, dude, heck yeah. I just love that it's all one timeline. So it's just about age. That's it. You know.
How much later is the Mandalorian from those series?
The Mandalorian is like, I don't know the exact date, so don't come at me, folks. But it's like 7 years after the events of Rebels. But Clone Wars and Bad Batch are far earlier than that, even, because they're immediately after the thing. So there's a bit of a timeline thing there. But the thing is the guy who plays all the clones is the guy who plays Boba Fett. It's the same actor because they're all the same clones. So
brought him back, yeah.
As long as that guy stays alive, we can have any of the clones back we want. We just got to figure out how they fit in there character-wise.
That's funny.
Rex is so
cool,
though. Yeah. And we also learned from the DCEU Zack Snyder stuff. Ben Affleck, he did a really nice interview on The Hollywood Reporter. I've suggested everybody read that. It's really good. He talks about how he'll never direct a Batman movie. He was going to for Zack Snyder, but being a part of Justice League, he saw that like that movie's development was so terrible in many ways, but some of the important ones is the fact that like the fans are way too invested. And so you can't you can't go out for breakfast without people watching you and thinking, oh, it means he's fighting the Joker. You can't do anything. And then also the costume, the work, everything's so high budget, so the studio has too much input on what you're doing. You're just not like you're on your own. He just doesn't want anything to do with it.
You don't have any creative control in the process. You're stuck on the rails.
Yeah. The beginning of your movie and at the end of your movie have to be certain points. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. At the end of Ant-Man, Kang has to escape, or like there has to be Kangs at the end of your movie. So you can't do anything that changes that part, and that's a big part of your movie. You know. And so he says he's done, but he did say, and I'm excited for this, he's in The Flash as well. We have a couple Batmans in The Flash movie coming up. He says that that's the best version of his Batman he's ever done. So he says, I finally figured it out. I finally figured out how to play Batman, and it's in The Flash. You guys will see it there. That's pretty cool. I'm glad to see that he's at least ending on a high note, you know.
You think obviously it's going to be multiple Batmans from different timelines, right?
Right.
What do you think that Batman that he's so proud of is going to be like?
Well, that will be the Batman we all know as Ben Affleck's Batman. And then the idea is that Flash goes back. So he'll be probably in the beginning of the movie, in my opinion. The idea is that Flash goes back in time to try to save his mom, and that's what screws up. That's Flashpoint storyline. So then everything changes. And in that one, normally in the comic books, it's Thomas Wayne, the dad, that becomes Batman. But in this one, what it is he changes it, and all of a sudden now it's Michael Keaton as Batman. And so we get the full Michael Keaton as Batman storyline. It's the same Batmobile, everything.
That's what I was kind of hoping, is that he's hinting at or something, that maybe in this time travel stuff, he goes back and sees Thomas Wayne as Batman. So Ben Affleck playing his dad as Batman. And then, the events that led to him, that's why he got shot in the street, was because he was, undercover, but he at night is Batman kind of thing.
Like he went back in time, messed it up. I really wish they did actually stick with the Thomas Wayne thing, because in that universe, Thomas Wayne is played by Jeffrey D. Morgan, who is Negan from Walking Dead.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
He'd be a very good, because Thomas Wayne's Batman is like, he has 2 guns on his belt. It's a whole lot less I'm playing it nice. He uses like a red as his logo a lot. Anyways, but yeah, Jeffrey D. Morgan playing Batman would be amazing.
That would be cool, man.
Moving on to our next thing here, we have the U.S. is poised to ban TikTok. So, Jonathan, I'm sure you understand the situation, but basically there's a whole spying concern with a Chinese company that fully owns it. They do have the ability to, the government has the ability to pull information off there. And look, U.S. apps have all kinds of information to take it from us too. I mean, everybody's spying on you, so you're not hiding from anybody.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, there's all kinds of reasons to do this, sure thing. I hate to see TikTok go for many reasons. First off, there's the discoverability of new people. I've made friends through TikTok and stuff like that. But I don't know. What do you think about this situation, John? Do you think we should be getting rid of TikTok?
I don't think so. Just from a consumer, I like to use it. I use it similar to how I would YouTube. Nowadays, it's changed over the past few years, but
Yeah.
there's more searchability where I can find if I want a little tutorial how to do something or to get inspiration. Like sometimes, I haven't fired up my 3D printer in a while, but sometimes I'll get that itch and I want to see like what are people 3D printing. So I just put that in there, and you find video after video of different ideas and stuff, which is fun. So I do like how it works and stuff, but I understand the fears of, the people being manipulated by it and using that data against us and stuff. But like you're saying, that could be happening from Facebook or Instagram or any of these other sources. Some people believe that our regular news channels are giving us a false narrative sometimes to try to steer which way the American people are looking and whatnot. It's like, whatever. I don't care. I mean, one way or another, I don't really want it to go away, and I don't want it to be manipulating us. And I understand. I believe there should be a international organization that has regulations over the internet, so we can keep some good stuff there and get rid of some of the bad stuff and just have some control over it. But obviously, there needs to be a limit to how much our rights can be infringed on too. So. I don't want to get super. It's a super touchy political topic, which is kind of dumb. It shouldn't necessarily get political, but people in our country like to polarize every issue nowadays.
And the thing with the manipulation is what's hard is the algorithm doesn't necessarily change your mind. It just learns what your mind is all about and will feed you more of it. So if you're leaning one way and you only want to hear those echoes, you'll hear them because that's what you watch. It's giving you what you wanted. So it's like,
A common joke at my work is hilarious. I don't know. I hope it's not offensive to anybody, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyways. You can cut it. Is one of the guys from my work is like, "Hey man, have you ever watched on TikTok? There's this funny video I saw," and the other guy's like, "Nah, man, I never go on there. It's just a bunch of gay guys and dick pics and stuff like that." He's like, it's based on an algorithm of what you like, right? Like, oh shit. So the guy didn't realize that. He's like, oh, no, yeah, I don't like TikTok. Like,
I don't like TikTok.
Yeah, I wonder what you've been swiping on.
Yeah,
or
there's a priest or pastor joke that was that way too, where it's like, oh, it's just a bunch of half-naked girls dancing. Is like, it's an algorithm, bro. If you're a pastor watching a bunch of half-naked girls dancing, it's gonna give you more.
Right. Though the lives, there is something in there. Maybe it's just because I'm a man, but I've noticed I intentionally don't click on any of the thirst trap stuff or anything like that, and somehow the live streams are almost always girls that are just talking or doing this sound ASMR stuff, or not wearing a bra, so they're obviously trying to get that kind of attention and whatnot. And I'm like, I don't click on anything to instigate that, so I'm not sure. I think it might just be because the system knows that I'm male that it tries to offer that, but I don't know.
I don't really.
When my wife sees, she's like, "What are you clicking on?"
Yeah. Like I purposely don't watch lives because I don't know, they're just not as fun to me. But mine are super political. But my TikTok is super political.
You know what I do watch is the Geek Freak lives.
That's a good one. I'm just throwing out our podcast headlines. All the episodes also released on TikTok and YouTube, by the way. But all my TikTok, your TikTok, and like our dad's TikTok is very different from each other in many ways.
Oh yeah.
Mine, I love books and woodworking and stuff like that are all on my TikTok. Lego builds, random jokes.
Yeah. And it probably seems dumb because I can go on our website or I could just Google or, ask you questions. But almost all the geek news that I hear is you in the TikToks that you post about them. It's like, oh, we're going to talk about this weekend. So that's good to get a heads up before we talk about it.
There you go. There you go, guys. That's how Jonathan gets his news. And you can too. So with this happening, like I hate to see TikTok go, but there's definitely some cons. I really like its discoverability. The algorithm has been basically taken by YouTube and Facebook in a lot of ways because Facebook or Instagram Reels really is the same thing as TikTok. So is YouTube Shorts. And YouTube Shorts is actually where we're finding all our growth. Not really on TikTok. It's YouTube Shorts that we find the most success. It's the same thing. It'll eventually work the same way. Matter of fact, YouTube Shorts uses the old TikTok algorithm before TikTok wanted to do long form videos because YouTube doesn't need to change it to that because they already have that. That's YouTube's main thing. What I'm hearing, though, this might be just rumors out of school, is a lot of the push against TikTok is because Facebook and other companies, Twitter and whatnot, have lobbied against, have found a reason to get TikTok out of the game because they're big competitors for our time. I mean, I know, oh dear God, if I open that TikTok app right before I go to bed, that burns off an hour and a half easily, you know? So it's dangerous in that way.
Yeah, so this is just corporations fighting over our attention for their ad funding, really.
And dragging the government into it because they tried to get it banned like in 2020 or something like that, but then that failed through because of courts. Now they have gotten the okay to do it, and so now it's just basically at any moment they can ban it.
I also like. I don't think TikTok's being used, or I don't see it being used in a malicious way at all right now. I understand the deeper those roots spread between our society, it will be easier for them to flip a switch or just change a number, and then it's being used against us. And so we do want to defend against that, which is why I think there should be regulations by an international, entity that all our governments come together and say, hey, we want this on the internet. We don't want that on the internet. Let's work together to still be able to share our information between our countries, but, limit the good and the bad and how it's used and stuff like that. And so we would still be able to have access to TikTok, but they set some kind of, ground rules on, especially what they can do with the information they gather from the consumers.
It's hard because I kind of feel like it should be on the consumer to be wise about what you're doing. Like, so many people complain that, like, oh, my password was stolen. I get this all the time as somebody fixes people's computers. Oh, my password, or my computer was hacked. My computer's got viruses. Oh, what were you doing on it? Well, I was on this random website that doesn't make any sense, and it's like, hey, bro, I'm going to fix your computer, but don't go on that website again. Clearly, that was your fault for not knowing what you were doing. And that's the same thing with TikTok, with like the algorithm thing. People are like, oh, well, a lot of the people who hate TikTok don't use it regularly. So they get whatever TikTok first gives you, which is a little bit of everything to kind of see where you spend the time. And then they start aiming in that direction. But people who regularly use TikTok know that it's for you. Like, it really does bend to what you want. And others do that as well. But I think it's just that TikTok's algorithm is a little bit more aggressive in that way. I don't mind there being like some sort of more regulations on it in a way, but I definitely think that people just need to be more responsible with what they do and take ownership. Hey, if you look this up, you looked it up, saying, oh, my kids are able to find naked pictures online. Well, then you can't have them online. Let me just tell you that much. It's not going to be on. Yeah, TikTok's not going to do that for you.
Yeah, that's true. To some extent, like the world around you is always going to have bad things that you have to avoid. You can't put everything, wrapped in bubble wrap to keep your kids safe and whatnot. So if you want your kids to be able to have a phone and call you and be safe,
right,
but not, look up naked pictures on the internet, well, you just need to give them a phone and turn off the internet access to it, or, through the carrier, because the kids are smarter with phones than we are nowadays and whatnot, but make it so that it can't be accessed and, and teach them, hey, this is why you shouldn't be looking at this kind of stuff. Just taking away their access and then not explaining it, they're going to find a way around it if they really want to. So explain to them why they probably shouldn't and how it will negatively impact them in the future, and help them be wise about the things they do.
Have a dialogue with your kid on it. That's a really good idea. Talk to them like they're adults, and usually they'll respond the same way.
Yeah.
All right. The alternatives that we suggest, honestly, is YouTube Shorts. We have Reels. We don't use it often because it's really messy as well. And matter of fact, Facebook, knowing that this is about to happen, just said that people can't be paid for their Reels anymore. It's like, you guys are just showing your hand at this point. You clearly were against TikTok this entire time.
Yeah.
But you can follow us on YouTube Shorts if you guys want headlines. Obviously, you could subscribe on all your favorite podcast apps, just like you're listening to this one on. But we have YouTube Shorts, and they do quite well over there. The algorithm's a little tricky, so I do have to kind of manipulate things and learn the differences, but it's where it's doing quite well. All right, Star Trek Discovery Season 5, they announced it's going to be its final season. It's also got pushed back to 2024 instead of this year, so we're going to have to wait on that. With the end of Discovery, we also have Picard ending after this season. What do you think's the future of Star Trek? Where are we headed with the future of this franchise?
Well, I'm hoping that, so we still have other shows running, right? We have Strange New Worlds, which is really good. I love Strange New Worlds. Lower Decks, and that the animated series, right? Prodigy. I haven't seen all of that, honestly.
Same.
But I'm hoping those three obviously keep going, especially Strange New Worlds. I think it's their new anchor show.
Yeah, I think that's replacing Discovery as the anchor show.
Yeah, but I hope moving forward, I want to see one or two more series sprouting up out of this. Discovery was good, especially when it first started. I just don't think they kind of had a long-term direction figured out, and is a little. I think they were kind of reaching for more of the shock and awe kind of aspect, and I'm ready for just like a kind of old-fashioned Star Trek show. So yeah, I'm hoping that they continue with Strange New Worlds. Lower Decks is good and funny too, but I'm hoping that they also make at least one or two more live action series. Maybe one that's not necessarily following Starfleet crew, but following Ferengi crew, or at another space station or something like that, where we see different interactions. But something different would be fun.
The Maquis or something like that would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
just
think,
movies if they want to do short movies.
For sure. My big thing is I think instead of doing more series, let's get more than 8 or 10 episodes or whatever it was for Strange New Worlds. Like back in the day when we used to watch Voyager or even Next Gen or whatever, it was 22 episodes per season.
Yeah.
Let's bring that back. Put your money towards more Strange New Worlds. I think that's going to be better in the long run for Paramount Plus. Because then, you could do, say you do 22 episodes per season of Strange New Worlds instead of doing a new series of something. You develop these characters. We fall in love with them even more than we already are. Plus, then you bust out the movies during the off season. And you do that one-off movie where they have to, go back in time and fight the Wolf Borg attack or something like that. Some big event like that. But then we have, actually for them it'd be go forward in time. But I think sticking with one Star Trek is our best bet, because I feel like we might be spreading it too thin now. We went from like no Star Trek to too much Star Trek possibly. And Discovery, my biggest problem with Discovery is it didn't know what the hell it wanted to do from season to season. And it changed it a lot from season to season. Season 2 was its best season, which had Strange New World in it, basically. So.
Yeah. And I think I kind of want to see them like lock down 5 seasons or something like that. Like commit that you're going to for sure have a 5 or 7 season run of this show, rather than like Discovery, like you're saying. They weren't sure if they were going to get renewed, so they had to keep finding fresh new ways to make it exciting. And it's like, well, we like the characters. We like the plan that you already put together. Let's guarantee us we're going to have this show for a while. And then after, if they want to have some stories that branch off from some of these new characters, then that's great. But yeah, I don't want it to go 2 seasons or 3 seasons and then die off.
I miss having Star Trek in the theaters, though. That was always such a cool event. That was such a big deal. Even if we got to bring back Chris Pine, which I think those are dead. Every time I hear every 6 months, like, oh, Star Trek 4 they're doing this now for it. Baloney. I'll wait till I have my ticket in hand and I'm walking in the theater, because I don't trust you guys anymore for that.
Yeah. Also, one thing about Strange New Worlds, I just saw online, and hopefully this isn't fake news. I don't know. I'm not a great.
You're so bad about that. You're so excited for Iron Man 4, man.
Oh yeah. Well, this is sad though. The actor who plays Hemmer seems to have passed away. He's the blind Andorian, I believe. Was his species?
No way.
The blue guy. Yeah. And so now they're trying to figure. The article that I saw the headline of was they were trying to figure out how they're going to recast his character. And so I don't know. To me, that's obviously sad and unfortunate. And then the fact that they're thinking about recasting, I'm like, I would make a very dramatic episode about his passing. And
well, the character died in the show already.
Oh, did he? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
he got yeeted off the side of the ship when they're on a planet. And I'm seeing that the actor I don't think died, Jonathan. I think it's just the character died.
Are you sure?
Because I'm reading
something about recasting.
No, there definitely wouldn't be recasting a character that's dead. I think what it was is because a screenwriter just did an interview with the actor about his character's death. That was like last month.
Oh man, I should learn how to read too.
You're only allowed to learn things through Geek Freaks headlines.
Right? So I was just like scrolling through. I was like, okay, we're gonna be talking about Star Trek. I need to see some stuff. And then I saw that. I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. But then I just moved on and just banked that in the back of my head. Like, the actor died.
Jonathan, that's so bad.
Yeah.
Headlines.
Don't trust anything I say.
So the character died. Hopefully we do get more Star Trek. Now, here's my big question for you, John. Over on Challenge Accepted, very successful podcast on our network, guys. Go check it out. I'm just saying.
Right.
We're right now doing Christopher Nolan month, where we're going through some of Christopher Nolan's best movies. We did The Prestige. We just finished Interstellar, which was my first time watching it. It was very good. Next is Dark Knight Rises. All right, with a bunch of Bane voice, and then
Nice.
we have another one coming after that. We'll announce it on the show, of course. After that, I am challenging Thomas to his very first Star Trek.
Mm.
So my question for you, Jonathan: what episode do I challenge him to? Because man, I can't figure it out.
And I know you were talking about doing a Voyager episode, two-parter.
Yeah.
It would be great. But I think, to me, fans mostly revolve around the Next Generation. And I think that would probably be the best place to start, at least if he's going to watch a whole series.
It's just one episode is the problem. It could be a two-part episode, but it's just that's the problem. It's not a series.
But if he likes the episode and decides to watch that series or more of it, the hardest thing is if you pluck an episode out and you watch just one episode, you don't know the characters. So when somebody is struggling to survive, you don't care about them because you don't know what it took to get them there. So that being said, I did find an episode, one I'd watched again recently, that I was like, oh, you know what? That's not only is that a good episode, it's a good episode on its own, but also because it has so much character development. It is all about one character and developing who they are by definition. And so, for example, before I get into that, the Tuvix episode, you wouldn't care if Tuvix lives or dies, or if Tuvok and Neelix live or die, if you don't care about Tuvok or Neelix or know their personalities that are both coming out in this new person. So that's a great episode if you're invested in those characters.
Kevin keeps sending me memes about like Tuvix dying because he hates Tuvix, and there's a big group of Star Trek people who do. So he always sends ones that are all about Tuvix dying.
Such a good episode. Anyways, so the one I suggest, and you can still go with your pick too if you want. I don't care. But it's called "The Measure of a Man" by in Next Generation. It is the episode where they debate whether or not Data is human or not, or whether not human, whether he's alive or not, and whether he should have the right to live. Dr.
Crusher?
Gosh, what's his name? No, not Sun Young. Oh gosh, I don't even know. Not the doctor that created him. I don't have any of the names in my head right now.
Okay.
But the one who was the foremost expert in cybernetics wanted to disassemble Data because his creator created him and then didn't make more, and I think he either died or disappeared.
We see that in Picard, actually. That happens
exactly. Yeah.
Picard. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that same guy. So he wants to take Data and disassemble him so he can learn how his cybernetic is not as positronic brain, how it works, so that he can recreate it. He's like, my research is so close, but I need to study this device. I need to study it, is what he says. He always calls him it.
Yeah.
To be able to to recreate it, and then I can make, together the Federation can have thousands or millions of these things that can then pilot our ships, and we won't have to worry about a real crew person dying and stuff like that. But in the process, I have to completely disassemble his brain, so he's gonna cease to function. And the crew, Picard is like, well, no, that would be killing my crewman. And he's like, well, he's just a device. He's not a crewman. He's like, well, no, to me, he's a crewman. And so they go back and forth. It becomes this whole court case, pretty much, where they have to determine whether or not he is alive and what is a machine and what is human, and are humans not just machines that are biological. And it becomes an awesome debate that truly develops Picard, his relationship with Data, Data himself, Riker. It's a deep episode. It's not big space battles, meeting a bunch of strange aliens or anything like that, but it's sometimes that's a little.
It's the best of sci-fi though, because the whole point of sci-fi is to question something in your own world, and it's like, what does life mean? That's something that's big.
And right now we have this topic of AI coming up a lot, so this might be
a good time for that.
Yeah. So
I mean, ChatGPT is my homie right now.
Right.
Okay, so that's definitely on the list. It's basically between that then and Voyager's Year of Hell, which is the big space battles. And it does, to me, I was telling Thomas, the reason I like Year of Hell so much is because it has like all the action, but also when you're done, you're like, wait, if you change time this way, what's the effect of the time here? I like having the time travel changes and stuff like that so much, especially with like kind of the questions you're having is like, was he wrong? I mean, he was just changing things that he didn't kill anybody. He just made it to where they didn't exist.
Yeah.
What's the morality of that and stuff like that? So I don't know. It's a tough one. And it's got Red from that 70s show.
Yeah. So. And he does a good job in that character.
He really does.
You kind of feel bad for him, but you're like, he's kind of murdering entire cultures, but kind of not. Like you're saying, they're being erased. But he's doing it to try to bring his family back. It's like, damn, that's a deep episode for sure.
I'm gonna be honest with you right now, man. I miss Trek Freaks. Man, I miss talking about.
We can do occasional episodes too. Just pick a certain topic about Star Trek that we want to talk about, or like that, a certain episode. Let's say pick an episode that we like or that the fans suggest, and just review one. The hardest thing was scheduling it on a reoccurring event, but we could do one-offs every once in a while. I'm fine with that.
Podcast scheduling is the biggest hurdle of podcasting by a mile. I mean, we have 11 people in this network. It's just you and me right now. Not that that's a problem. Right. Everybody's busy. They got work and kids and whatnot, but it's just how it is. I know. I wouldn't mind doing that, John, just because I really love Star Trek. And I was thinking about that. I think it was even yesterday, driving around. I was like, as a listener, I think my favorite of our podcast is Trek Freaks. Yeah. I really like that because I watched the episode with you guys and stuff like that, and it's like that's a shame that one's gone. But
well, when you guys, if you want me to join on the episode you're gonna do with Thomas,
1,000%.
Yeah, let me know when you guys are gonna do that, and then from there we can plan when we're gonna do another episode of Trek Freaks too. I'm down.
Okay. Ooh, man, that might lead me towards Year of Hell because then you know that one, and I won't know the next one for Trek Freaks. So that might lead me. Yeah, because
we can do both one episode for each, and then we go through both of them.
Okay, this is how podcast planning happens, guys. This is the free-form version of it.
Live.
All right, so we're locking down Jonathan for challenge accepted for an episode of Star Trek review.
Oh yeah.
I hope he enjoys it. I hope he gets hooked on it. That'd be cool. All right, Jonathan, let's move on to our review for The Last of Us first season. You had a chance to finish this up?
I did. That was such a good show. My gosh, I love it. It's what I was hoping for, and I didn't think I would really care about the game because, like, well, the game was cool, I guess, but this show, is now it's on TV. I don't have to read the book because I watched the movie, right? No, man, I want to play the game now. It looks so good. I see a lot of videos online now too of people walking through scenes and how much it mirrors the show. And it's like, man, that looks like a really good game.
Coming out on Steam later this year, including Steam Deck. So I'll have a chance to play it.
Nice, for sure.
And, I'm gonna wait. I'm waiting for that, and then I'm gonna play it as well. Because I just watched the walkthroughs and never actually played the game, so I was familiar with the story. But so before we get too far, guys, full on spoilers. Keep that in mind. If you haven't watched it yet, we are going to be talking spoilers for The Last of Us Season 1. So some of the news that we got from this already since then, Season 2 and 3 will tell the story of the second game because the story's a lot bigger in the second game. So it's going to be telling both of them. Neil Druckmann, the guy that helped make the first game and now is a producer of this, said that no matter what, we're making more seasons of this, even if for some reason we have to cast everybody over again. So that HBO, they're like, here's our new Game of Thrones. They're big fans. Surprisingly, Naughty Dog, they're already started working on another game, but it's not The Last of Us 3. They're working on a whole new game, a whole different game, and then we'll get to The Last of Us 3. So it's going to be a while before we get any more content out of this. What was some of your favorite parts from this season, John, that really was standing out from something like maybe Walking Dead or something like that?
I mean, the clicker, I think it was like the second or third episode that they showed the clicker. That was really cool. Well done. I like and that was just mostly from the writing of the story in the game, how they developed that type of creature. But it was portrayed really well in the movie too. Yeah. The scene where Ellie tries to save Sam, I think was his name.
Oh God!
And then he turns overnight. Yeah, that was like just a heartbreaker. And then not too long after that, we see Joel get stabbed, and then she's actually trying to decide whether to leave him or stay. And then she's like, no, I'm gonna stay and try to save him, do whatever I can. And saves him, brings him back to life pretty much from being just about dead. Just saves him just in time for him to save her, and then they move on.
Yeah, he had some real good penicillin because he was up and running pretty fast.
Yeah. We have to assume there was a couple hour time lapse in between there at least.
Yeah.
And then this last one or two episodes, I noticed there's so much being said between the words. There's so much that it's the most powerful words are the ones that aren't being said. I was like, oh my God, where like you know the scene where they're sitting together and he explains the guy that missed the shot at his face or whatever was him, and how did he say it? He pretty much.
Oh, dude, yeah, please nail this because it's so freaking good.
Well, I don't know exactly how he worded it. You remember
along the lines of
scene?
Like she's like, oh yeah, I get it. So basically, time heals all wounds, and he says, not necessarily time, and it's like Ellie,
that
you're the one
that
healing the wounds.
that implies so much, and she's been struggling this whole time, just being like pretty much a kid drifting on her own, and everyone that she cares about dies or runs away or leaves her somehow. And then now, so she's been kind of like clinging on this guy, like, I'm hanging onto your backpack kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're gonna take me with you. And then to see in this moment, all of a sudden she sees that he's clinging onto her, and she's the only reason he's still moving forward.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, like that's just heartwarming. Such a good scene.
I like how I wasn't sure how they were going to do this on, because in the game you got like 60 hours to develop this relationship. You had essentially 10 hours to make Joel think of her as cargo into she's my daughter.
Yeah.
I didn't think they were going to be able to do it, but boy, those last few episodes really locked it in quick. That episode, which Bella Ramsey, who plays Ellie, needs to win an Emmy for that episode where she escaped the preacher. Yeah. That shit tore me up inside. She did such a good job acting through that scene. And then when he surprises her from behind and she turns around and she's like, still like, you see visual shock in her face.
Yeah.
And then like she realizes it's Joel, and then she, she's looking at Joel, but she takes a second to realize it. It was just masterfully done by Bella Ramsey, and of course the writers and everybody involved. My goodness, what a performance!
I'd be interested to see what kind of awards they win for this show, because it is an amazing show so far.
This is one of those things that the Emmys won't give awards. They'll give some awards to some boring show, but then when the show that people watch, they don't give awards to. It's like, God, you guys are useless to us.
Yeah.
But
I'm excited to see more for sure.
I am too. I really liked this show. I think it was a refreshing take on. Let's be honest, guys. I know everybody, gamers and stuff like that, including ourselves, that are like, "Oh, this isn't zombies. They're cordyceps, blah blah blah." It's a zombie show. Let's be honest with each other, right?
Post-apocalyptic monsters created from the dead that are coming after people. So it's just a different take on it.
And I loved Walking Dead, but it got stale, and so I was like, "How are you? This might be a little too soon, guys. People are gonna have Walking Dead," but it somehow refreshed the genre in a way.
Well, because it's so little about the monsters. It's very little about them, and it's so much about the post-apocalyptic world they're living in.
Right.
It's the living people that are the big, struggle that you're fighting between, and just living with yourself and living with the few people that you care about. And I think they do a really good job at just not making that fighting these monsters is the focal point anymore.
There are supposed to be more monsters in the second 2 seasons, but I think one of the big things too is that this show comes down to decisions so much more than Walking Dead did. We all know the big one at the end, but just along the way of like, do you help these two brothers? What do you do in that moment when one is attacking Ellie? And it's just like the decisions matter so much more in this. And Walking Dead was a lot more like formulaic, where like, oh hey, they have to get this certain thing, it's in this mall, there's a whatever pills in there, they're gonna make enough noise to wake up some zombie and it comes after them. But that I don't know, they just, to me, it felt a little too formulaic. When this one, I think, really felt, even as somebody who knew the story from the video game, I felt appreciative of every decision they had to make. I thought it was pretty great. The loyalty to the game too was unreal. I couldn't believe how many shots are just straight up taken from the game. Like, that was pretty cool.
And this goes to show you that the people who make games, they're no less skilled than the writers that are making movies and TV today. Like, absolutely, this is a scene by scene copy of a video game, at least a lot of it is, and the story in general is following the video game. So we praise how great a movie or a series like Game of Thrones is a lot of times, but like, we got to take a closer look at these people that are making video games, and they should get the same kind of notoriety. If you make an amazing video game with like you're saying, 60 hours or 30 hours of gameplay in it, and people are getting all this attention for whatever 20 hours or 15 hours or something like that of a series, that's not equal. I mean, I know there's a lot more development that goes on in a movie because the way it's brought to you visually, there's a lot of practical effects and actors.
Well, time wise, it takes a lot more time in the video game.
Yeah.
And if you look at money wise, this is funny that the mainstream doesn't know this, but like, I think it was 1.8 billion that The Last of Us made, the video game, and we're talking about Avatar hit 2-something billion, and that's a big deal. And it's like, but good video games do that all. Like, video games are doing at least as good as movies all the time, and I have a way more lasting effect a lot of times, so hopefully that I think it's getting there. I think people realize that video games, because I went over to the parents' house to watch these episodes with them, because I kind of explain what's going on in between stuff, and a few times our mom was asking me like, how is this a video game? I don't understand. It's like, well, I mean, they're cutscenes, and every time you see Joel hold a gun, that's part of the video game. And like, before this point to that point, they actually went into a sewer. You didn't see that part, but that's the part that we played through. And people are underestimating. And then I explained to her like God of War and all these others, like Firewatch, which I played last year on stream. And it's like, there are other really good stories out there that will eventually be made into shows. Matter of fact, Amazon, who's making the God of War series, has said that we kind of wish Last of Us didn't do so well because now the pressure's on. It's like, yeah, it is, same feel. It's a father-son relationship over there.
It's exciting though to see that something that we've liked for so many years coming into mainstream now.
No. To finish up our Last of Us review, I mean, I give this series so far just a complete A. I know we're not normally grading things anymore, but I think it's important we discuss, was Joel right or wrong? To remind those who don't know, Joel had to decide either let Ellie die and potentially save the world, pretty much save the world, or save Ellie and let the world continue going on at its current rate. But was he right or wrong?
That's complicated. I think, that's complicated. I want to say logically he was wrong and selfish to try to save one person to damn millions. But emotionally, he's been protecting this girl. She doesn't know the options. She wasn't questioned whether would you be willing to sacrifice your life to save thousands or millions. So if she was given that option, then I would say, you have to let her choose and accept her choice. But since she wasn't given that option, I think he could have gotten her out of there without killing so many people, and then say, okay, now that we have her awake and safe, she's gonna choose. If she says no, F these guys, we're out of here, then I shoot my way out. But if she says, yeah, I'll go with it, then you continue with the procedure. But he killed everybody that could have possibly made the cure anyway, so
there's more fireflies, but that hospital's out. And the other thing too is she knows that he's lying to her in a lot of ways. You could tell, right? She knows that he's lying. This has been a debate that's been going on for over a decade now, guys, by the way, for those who play the video game. But still, that's the whole thing, is like, he's lying. She knows he's kind of lying. Like that look in her face at the very last scene, which is pulled from the game, where she's like, are you telling the truth about that? And like, I love how that last episode, Ellie almost seems like she de-aged like 5 years, because she looks like even more little girl that's like, oh, I might die today. It's super sad. And boy, it was the most video game-esque scene ever, as Joel just takes gun after gun and mows down an entire hospital full of soldiers. I know.
What do you think, though?
I kind of think that immunity will naturally develop over time. It's hard because it's a fungus. It's not like a virus, which we know it would eventually. So I think like if you just let things be, eventually the human race, if it's meant to survive, will survive. I mean, Ellie herself is an example of this. So you'd assume if Ellie eventually has children, those children would have her same immunity. And you start with a new Adam and Eve right there,
Oh, that reminds me. I saw this video. Someone was explaining this like mind-blowing revelation they had, and what they're trying to think of what another person was thinking. The lady that was running the Fireflies that dies at the end.
Marlene, yeah.
What was her name?
Marlene.
You remember? Marlene, okay. So the scene where Marlene finds, newborn Ellie, right, in her mom's arms, and she takes her, and the mom, she had to shoot her mom before she left. Her mom shot herself, one or the other. And then all these years later, she finds Ellie again and finds out that she's immune. In her brain at that moment, is she wondering, if I left her mom alive for a day or two, would she have turned? Or did she have the immunity and carried it on to her daughter? Was she already immune and I killed one of my best friends and took her daughter? And so, like you're saying, maybe it'll pass down in generations in her bloodline. Maybe her mom was already naturally immune, or it could have been the umbilical cord.
The umbilical cord, I think, is the kind of like stated.
Assumed.
Yeah.
Just enough of the infection got through or something. But
I love that about this show and game, though. Like we were talking about on because Challenge Accepted, we reviewed every one of these episodes. One of the things that we were talking about is how like the fact that she killed her friend for Ellie, and like the mom told her like, I was bit after she was born. So we know that Marlene knew that that was bullshit and still went
Yeah.
with it just because she was lying to herself for peace. That's
Mhm.
exactly what Joel and Ellie are doing right now. Ellie knows that he's lying to her, but she's like, look,
Mhm.
I'm just going to continue with this lie because it just gets the day going forward and doesn't
Yeah.
ruin this relationship. And so it's like, man, it's perfect writing.
And you hang on to this baby, in the back of your mind, like it might turn at some point. I might have to, stab it in the side of the head or something like that. Got to be prepared. Don't just sleep next to it ignorantly. But yeah, you have to do what you have to do at that moment, right? You have to keep moving it forward and hope and pray and assume that, pretend that it's not going to be an issue.
I'm looking forward to the next season. They said they're already writing it, and then they said it's going to be split over 2 seasons because it's going to be so big. So that is pretty awesome. Let's close things out with some network news. Disney Moms Gone Wrong have their very first interview. It's coming out on Wednesday. So please check that out, guys. Disney Moms Gone Wrong. We'll release it on the Geek Freaks feed a couple weeks later after that. Challenge accepted. Next movie is going to be Dark Knight Rises. It's the second to the last of Nolan month. Outlast podcast has a new episode coming out. It's every Thursday now, but the next one's going to be out on Thursday. And then the next level up will be on the original Resident Evil 4. And hopefully that'll come out before the remake. I know that Kyle right now is playing the remake and has said it's like might be a perfect game. I was like, oh shit, that's pretty good. Kyle doesn't mince words. When he says something, it's like, oh, this might be a thing. So check that out, guys. That's all network news. And then lastly, I want to make sure to announce again, just because I might remove it from the beginning of this. The Sacramento Mario Kart Grand Prix, brought to you by Geek Freaks, is coming April 15th to the West Sacramento CCS. Links in the description. So you guys can link around and sign up for the convention. We'll be there. We'll be holding the Sacramento Mario Kart Grand Prix. We're also going to be doing a gaming quiz show. We're going to be doing interviews. It's going to be a lot of the Geek Freaks that are there, including the Disney Moms are going to be showing up too to discuss Wreck-It Ralph. So that's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast all around. So please check that out, guys. That's April 15th. Links in the description. Jonathan.
And if you guys...
Go ahead.
Real quick, if you guys haven't been listening to the Outlast podcast, I'm loving that. I'm finally in sync with it. I usually catch up like super late into the season, but watching Survivor and then the next, couple days later, listening to the podcast where they review the episode of Survivor, it's so much more fun. I've tried to listen to it and not know the characters in that season of Survivor.
Oh yeah.
But finally, I caught it at the right time where like, no, I'm going to stick along and listen to it as it goes. But yeah, that's a fun series to listen to.
Part of that podcast now is reviewing the official Survivor podcast that came out.
Yeah,
so that's how we
On Fire with Jeff Probst.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. Let's leave things with a recommendation for the week, John. You got any good ones?
So, one thing that I haven't watched because I don't have a lot of time to watch TV anymore. I mostly just watch them on my lunch break on my phone. But and there's a lot of things I haven't seen that I haven't got caught up with. But one that I went back to I hadn't seen in a while is Better Call Saul. Mm-hmm. I don't think I saw the final season of it, the last season of it recently, because it was airing at the time. Maybe it wasn't ready to be streamed or something like that. But anyways, I'm getting caught up on that, and that show is so good. What is his name? Esposito. Giancarlo Esposito. Yeah. Oh, he's in it now, and he's just so good. I love his acting and his character. Bob Odenkirk obviously is just a great actor all around too. So it's a good series. If you guys haven't seen it, especially if you like Breaking Bad, it's hard to say. If it's not better than Breaking Bad, it's just as good.
Yeah.
So you got to watch both series. It's really good.
He's been cast on Ahsoka, Star Wars series coming up. So
no way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
that's cool.
A lot of us are hoping he got cast as Thrawn, which is an admiral for the Empire that is so cool. Hopefully he got cast as that. So more reason to be excited about that.
An Empire admiral is very like sharp, cut, clean.
This admiral,
assertive.
We'll explain it later on. We'll probably have to do a thing for him eventually, but he is so strategically smart and it's the best. So please check that out, guys. He's all blue though, so that'll be the thing that kind of puts people off. But yeah, we'll see. My suggestion is, guys, go watch the old school John Wicks. We actually just lost Lance Reddick yesterday. He's in from the John Wick series. He also did Fringe. He's on Horizon Forbidden West. He's in a lot of video games as well. Lance Reddick, hell of an actor. His portrayal on John Wick is so cool. He does a really great job on that. So check that out, guys. First 3 John Wicks are out there. They're all on HBO. And then, of course, the new John Wick's coming out next week, and I'll do a review for that one myself. So we have a Shazam review coming up, and we have that review coming up. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us this week, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.